Welcome to Appointing the Wise, a podcast where we discuss local politics, government, and philosophy so we can be wise and appoint wise men and women to be our representatives in government.
All right. Welcome to Appointing the Wise. I've got Mayor Bott here. He's agreed to be interviewed. Just ask him some questions that I've had. And I get some feedback from the Facebook page. Not all of those are going to be on here. And like I posted on the Facebook page, if we don't cover that, I definitely recommend that you contact the mayor, any of the city council people. There's contact information on the website, and really reach out to him. I've found a lot of success with that, obviously. So here we go. I guess, first of all, tell us about yourself. Anything you'd like people to know about you. Anything listeners might be helpful to know.
I don't know what people don't know about me.
Fair enough.
I've been around for a long time, and not so much in government that I'm speaking to, but I've coached all my kids growing up in rec, and I was the interim lacrosse coach for the high school that made it a school club, and then a couple years later they got sanctioned by the high school, and so they hired a different coach. But in that time, I got to know a lot of people. I'm really active at the high school with wrestling. That's what I did in high school. My youngest son did in high school. My other kids played softball and baseball. So I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce for a long time. Well, for one term, but on and active in the Chamber of Commerce. And then I've just owned my own business in Brigham City.
And then, so I guess that's a good place to start is Chamber of Commerce, and then city councilman for 1 or 2 terms?
2 terms.
2 terms, and then to mayor.
Yeah,
is that right?
And I ran for mayor, yep.
Okay, perfect.
When Mayor Vincent had felt that it was time for him to go and work on his shop. Poor Mayor Vincent. He had it rough in that first year of being the mayor. All of his employees went and got higher paying jobs, and so
he had to replace those people.
He was and it was hard to replace. That was during the recession, and there just weren't a lot of qualified individuals that were looking for his type of work in the auto body, and so he'd work. I know he'd go home from city council and
not city council related, personal business.
Personal business,
okay.
Yeah. He was painting cars from 2 a.m. till 5 a.m. and doing all the other work. So he had a rough go of it there for a little while personally, but I think he's a good friend of mine, as well as Tom Peterson. Actually, I can't think of one city council member that I've served with as city council and even as mayor that I haven't been friends with, and probably even known for a long time, because I've been in Brigham City since 1985. So
okay, so I relatively new. I came here in early 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know a lot about anybody. First interactions with some of the city council people and stuff have just been recently. I don't really recognize any of those names. Is there any, I guess, for new people like myself? I think we're constantly getting new people into Brigham.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you think would be helpful to know about kind of the layout of the, I don't know, the government, the officials that work here? You'd mentioned, Vincent, Mayor Vincent, or anything like that.
Commissioner Vincent.
Commissioner Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to get on this. Anything like that? I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. Just as far as being an informed citizen and wanting to know about some of the people, or does that help? I don't know. That might be a question.
No, I think that's a great question. I hate to call it a popularity contest at local city government, because in a lot of cities it's not. And in Brigham City, it certainly isn't. But I think that plays in being known, being out in the community. It's easier to be known. It's a little more difficult for, it was easy for me being self-employed, because I could be involved in community events and clubs, where somebody that's working, for 12s or something like that. And it's a little, and then they make that decision to serve in the community. It's a little more difficult to be known, because they may not work here. They may work back then out at Thicol, now in Northrop Grumman, or out at the Walmart DC, and they're there in that building, and then they come home and they take care of their family and do their church jobs maybe, or maybe they just want to relax. And so it's, I found it was easy for me to be known, just because I was out there being active because I could. My vocation, my career, making headstones and being self-employed, gave me that opportunity. Of course, that's the rub, right? I have lots of friends that work in a big company, and they dream about being self-employed, and usually the self-employed guys dream about being employed by a big company, so they have the security. They don't have to make, yeah. So it's an interesting little dichotomy that you find yourself running into. But yeah, no, it's as far as the citizen, I'd say as much as you can, get involved. Community clubs, Rotary, Kiwanis, Sons of Utah Pioneers is also a good one. They're great people in there that are really involved in the community. And I am a member of the Sons of Utah Pioneers. I don't get there very often the last couple of years because usually things have gotten so busy at the nighttime when they have their meetings, I'm not able to attend. Same with Rotary, even though I'm a member of Rotary. Coach your kids in rec. Don't sit back and wait for somebody to volunteer to coach. Jump right in and you volunteer. You may not even know how to do it, but jump right in and do it.
YouTube videos will get you there.
YouTube videos, yeah. And start when they're young. Get involved with the high school sports. Go down there and support, even though you don't have somebody, may not have a child there, but just getting out there and feeling a part of the community. We're small enough that you're really connected there at the high school level. With entertainment. The Chamber of Commerce is a good one, especially if you have your own business or, volunteer to be you're elected onto the board, but you can be they've got, I can't remember the name now. My mind has gone blank, but you can come in as Monica's going to kill me too because I was president of the chamber. I should know this. It's gone blank, but when she sees it, she'll be screaming at the screen the name. But anyways, you can go and volunteer there, and they meet monthly, and they help put on the activities for the businesses and the community. Just get involved as much as you can, and I think that's the path that I went. Did I ever think I was going to did I do that to become mayor? No, I did that because I want to be involved in the community. It wasn't until me and Tom Peterson spoke one day. We've been good friends for a while now, and we said, hey, we think we could. At that time, morale was kind of low in the city, and he came to me, and I was thinking the same thing. And he said, maybe we should run because he thought I was a positive person. I thought he was a positive person. Maybe we can make a difference with morale with city employees, and that's why we ran. So.
Who's Tom Peterson?
He's Representative Peterson.
Okay, he's on the. Okay.
Yeah, he's down at legislature now.
Okay.
Yeah.
For Utah.
For Utah, yeah, we served as he was on the city council with me for two terms, same 2 terms.
Okay.
We ran at the same time, and then when the opportunity came to go down to run for the legislature, he did that.
Cool. So that's cool.
Yeah,
I have to talk to him too.
Yeah, no, he's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's cool. Okay, so I appreciate that introduction here. So one of the things that I thought, and I think that it's kind of the crux, I think, of what's some of the angst, I guess, that's going on in the community is this, at least what I've seen, is almost, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if it's not a shared vision, but like, what is the vision for Brigham City moving forward, right? One of the questions I've got in here that I was thinking of is this dichotomy or between like, do we want more businesses and more people to help facilitate that, or are we okay sacrificing giving that up, right? Where is that going?
When you say give up going for businesses, is that what you're referring to?
Right, yeah. So in order to get, whatever more businesses here, so conveniences, different restaurants, I know people threw out like Lowe's before, right?
Yeah.
I think a business here requires a bigger population.
And that's a great question that is asked quite often. And the answer, you're right on. Most of when I was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, I reached out to several of these companies. I even went, I think to myself, hey, we don't have a sporting goods store in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to Big Five. I reached out to, I think it was Olive Garden back then, simply because my sister worked for Olive Garden, and we seemed to eat there all the time. So I thought, hey, that may be a good fit. And each one of those told me that they have a 100,000 person threshold. They won't look at a community unless there's 100,000 people.
What's the radius there?
Well, and that's what I shot back at, because Logan City does not have, back then in 2008, did not have 100,000 people, but the county did.
Oh, okay.
And so they were able, their radius or whatever they determined that by, showed them that Cache Valley shops in Logan.
Because that's what, I mean, Bear Lake, right? All of
Same
that.
thing, yeah. And so,
That makes sense.
which made me even more depressed because Box Elder County only has 65,000 people.
Turns out a lot of us shop in Logan as well.
And you're right. What would be interesting, and I haven't asked for quite a while, as I threw out that date of 2008, but I haven't asked quite a while. If that goes into it, if they do studies like that, because I'd say that South Willard and South Perry probably do a lot of their shopping down in Ogden, just because it could be closer.
Yeah.
Tremont and that area probably go over to Logan more often than they come into Brigham. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. My family goes
Both
50-50,
directions, yeah.
depending on what we're looking for. Apparently, there's Trader Joe's in Riverdale, so that might pull us somehow.
And some of that is dictated by the stores that are available, which again are dictated by the populations in those areas, which we don't have. And so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is the city doesn't. So most of those things, especially restaurants, it's a franchise, and somebody has to invest.
Right.
So unless somebody in the community is willing to invest in that business to open it, bring it here, your Chick-fil-A's, your Jimmy John's, any of those things.
So would it be safe to say that those strip malls there in kind of on the border of Perry and Brigham, those are owned locally, essentially? They're local franchises? Each of those is an individual.
I don't know about the franchises, but I know the buildings were built by a local investor, a local business owner. And so
the franchisee might be local, it might be a little bit
those, I don't know. Yeah, the franchisee is somebody that then is looking for a rental. But even then, so years ago when my son was wrestling, I thought, man, I was eating at Jimmy John's a lot with him because you can get a sandwich wrapped in lettuce. So when he was sucking weight.
Oh, yeah. A lot of veggies.
Yeah.
A lot of
and
carbs.
So I looked and just their baseline, they wouldn't even talk to you as you get on their site unless you had $350,000 in assets, and I think close to $500,000 in liquid cash, and then and an idea where you'd like to put it. So it was, by the time you were done, the total investment just to get off the ground before you even hire and start making money was close to $250,000 to $1 million.
So pretty heavy investment.
It is, and so it's hard. It's hard, especially in Brigham.
Risk.
When you're in a small town, to find somebody that's willing to take that risk, one, and have those types of assets and resources. So that's the other thing. Now, I don't know if that is the same nowadays. We went out to look at a business 2 or 3 years ago that was looking at Brigham, and they were in a small community. In fact, the population community was smaller than Brigham, but the business employed close to 1,000 to 1,200 people. And in that small town, they had those types of things. They had your Buffalo Wild Wings. They had the Olive Gardens. So I don't know if the rubric that I'm assuming still applies, or if there's ways that they circumvent their own requirements that I was told. So that I don't know. But the city really can't do anything with those things other than to make sure that we leave space, or we're zoning for commercial and not just that. I will say, and that's a good question too on the vision for the city.
The other dichotomy, before you dive into that,
the
other dichotomy that I saw was lower taxes versus what services do we want, right? Needs versus wants. And then it's like, hey, we want a rec center, we want trails, we want this and that. It's like, okay, but you're also complaining about taxes a lot. So we gotta figure this out.
Yeah, none of that is
can't do
funded
both
without taxes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, now with that,
no, you're right.
But you're saying, Gabe, looking at the vision, the question that I was wanting to get at with that was, I guess your vision, the city council's vision. I need to, and maybe that's not an episode, but maybe something I'll put on Facebook, is looking at the city master plan. I know that's a thing you guys have put a lot of work into. That's something like 200 pages. That's part of the reason I haven't done it yet. And so looking at that, what is that vision? Where would you say they try to balance each of those things? Or I don't know, with that what you will. I'm just
when you do that, it's there needs to be public involvement, which is kind of discouraging because the public involvement is usually, as you've seen in city council, equal to that. So we're doing a master plan and you have public open houses, and again, people are busy or whatever, or they just don't think about it. They don't get engaged. And so you get 3 or 4 people coming in and putting some input in on where they would like commercial, industrial, agricultural. different zones of housing as far as density.
Yeah.
Is it fair? I don't know. I don't know before I was on city council and the mayor that I'd ever care or put thought into that.
Mhm.
I think that's part of the election process, in my opinion, is finding an individual that you can trust to make good decisions, knowing that you're not going to be to every meeting,
Mhm.
knowing that you're not going to have all the information. I had an individual while I was on city council once, a really good friend of mine said that he was tired of feeling like the city council is telling him like that they're smarter than he is. And I said, I would disagree with smarter. I would say that
Wrong.
we are bombarded and constantly see more information that we're making those decisions on, along with staff. And so that's the differential. I don't think anyone's smarter than anybody else, but having that information in front of you 7 days a week, or
It's
in
experience, right? I mean, like in your job, right? Somebody who starts versus somebody who's been there for a
there's
while.
some, yeah,
There's
some people catch on, but
familiarity with
Mhm.
how is this going to ripple into other
Yeah.
aspects of things.
And I think that's the beauty of local nonpartisan government is that you try in my opinion, the idea is to find somebody that you can look at their life, the way they've managed it. And
Mm.
this is my opinion. And you say, okay, I can trust that guy or that girl. I can trust that individual to make a right decision on my behalf because of either the experience I've seen them go through, or the way that they manage their lives, the type of individual they are. And so then I know that there's some trust and there's some comfort there knowing that I can't make to all the city councils.
Mm.
But if a decision has to be made, I trust that person to make it, knowing that he has my best interest in mind.
Yeah, I've got, I don't know if pushback's the right word, a little bit of pushback on that, because
Mhm.
this is something I've been wondering myself is looking at the election that's coming, is somebody I trust. I don't know that there's anybody I distrust
Mhm.
running right now, but what is their vision for the community moving forward, right? Is they could both be equally have their lives together and morally upright individuals, but my pet is the high density housing or whatever it is, right? The future and vision of that community. And so looking at that person to lead, I guess, is, I kind of lost my way as I was saying that.
No, that's
but
okay.
that's
We're
a
kind of squirreling a
distinguishing
little bit,
point.
but I think it's a good
Yeah.
squirrel here for a second.
Yeah.
Because once you get elected and you're bombarded with all the information, it's just not city information.
Mm.
It's also requirements from the state. So you mentioned high density
Yeah.
housing.
Yeah. I'm happy to go into that.
The state a couple of years ago actually require the city to have a certain percentage of their housing be high density and Section 8 or subsidized as well for affordable housing.
So we talked to Representative Peterson.
And he wasn't there when it was done. He was on the
Right.
city council.
Right.
But I doubt it'll be changed
Yeah.
because of the need for affordable housing.
Mhm.
But we can choose as a city not to do that.
Mhm.
And what the state says, well, if you're not gonna follow the requirements that we're asking you to do in the name of affordable housing,
Mhm.
then they withhold B and C road funds. So state funding for our roads internally gets cut back.
Yeah, they've got you in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah,
the
but
same
it's
way
not-
that the federal government does that with states, right?
Yeah, well, a little bit. It's not so politically biased,
Mm.
but I don't know that I disagree with it
Okay.
because at some point our kids are going to need
It's a
starting places.
something they're trying to incentivize, and if you don't incentivize it, then it's not going to happen on its
It's
own.
not going to. Well, no, or that's all that will be built.
As like single family homes or something.
No, high density homes, because the developer, you're able to make more money in that rent doing
So
an apartment.
is the percentage a cap or is the percentage a mandatory minimum?
It's a basement. You can do more, but you can't do less.
Okay. So then it wouldn't be you only get individual housing.
And then
You only get,
the next aspect of that, as far as that's in zoning.
right.
So that's what the city council, they look at that requirement and they say, okay, that's where you see in the zoning, we need to have this much at this density in order to meet that requirement in our master plan, so that we aren't held, they're not taking or withholding those B&C road funds that we need in order to maintain our roads, build new roads that if the developer's not paying for it. The other aspect of the high density or the housing and growth is just the sale of personal land to another personal entity.
Right.
The only way to really stop any of that is if a government or somebody who doesn't ever want any growth buys all the land.
Right.
And then they can say, no, I'm never selling it. No, it's never growing.
Well, you guys do zone things though, right? So you would, what I hear you saying, just making sure I understand it, is that the city has to have X amount of high density by dictate of the Utah state law.
It's a percentage. Yeah.
So we have to figure out where that's going to go in Brigham.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, are we above that at all?
Yeah, we've been above it for a little while.
Okay. So that there is wiggle room, but that's dictated by the master plan.
That's not so much. Wiggle room's not the right phrase.
Okay.
Because just because we're above it doesn't mean there isn't any that's going to be built. Because then it falls on the landowner, the developer. What makes that? If he's buying real expensive land, it only pencils if it's higher density, and he's in a zone that allows higher density, either in aggregate or just plain RM20.
So we're a little bit over it, or we could be way over it, depending on what they do with land.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the conversations I had with Councilman Jensen was that if it's in the master plan, we can't discriminate, but we do have control over what's in the master plan.
No, yeah, I don't. So the zone, if it's zoned, we can't. If it's allowed in the zone that's already zoned,
right?
We could try. And to quote a city attorney down south, you can do that all day long. You're going to lose in court.
Right, but the zoning, we control the zoning.
We control the zoning.
Once it's zoned there, then it's discrimination. I'll let them do what they want with it.
Yes,
but if you control the zoning, then you can say, actually, it turns out this is too much high density for Brigham.
Yeah, but
is that a possibility? Or is that not a real actually?
Well, the other thing is that you need to understand is, I mean, you could take agricultural zoning. Somebody goes in and buys all that, they can come in and petition to amend that zone into residential or commercial or industrial. Now, what that does is agricultural obviously is the least taxed ground, and those taxes go to run the county, to the school district, some to the city, to mosquito abatement, water conservancy district, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And so you get somebody that comes in and buys agricultural, and they want to put up housing, and it's going to provide that much more in property tax for those entities. You're going to be hard pressed for a city council to say no. So instead of raising taxes, now taxes are naturally coming in because of the rezoning in order to accommodate what the new landowner would like to do with his land.
Okay. So is it
now, we don't,
like my solution, my way to not discriminate against people trying to do what they want with the land, but the city does have a real power of zoning. Is that if I know that,
but it's flexible at the same time,
right?
What we can't do are the obvious forbiddens, and it's not obvious till you get into a position like this, but you can't spot zone. Meaning you can't have 20 acres of residential and somebody comes in and it's RM5, so 5 units per acre.
Okay.
Somebody can't come in and say, okay, for this lot of mine, it makes sense to me. I would like to put a fourplex on this, but it's not in the zone. That is frowned upon.
Right. Looking at it from the master plan, saying our 5-10 year thing.
Go even,
Are you guys updating the master plan next year? Did I hear that right?
No, not
next year. But
not next year. We're hitting impact fees. We're rolling impact fees.
Okay. Oh, what is that?
Impact fees are what people pay when they build in Brigham City.
Oh, okay. The new developments to cover the infrastructure.
Yeah, the new load on infrastructure: roads, police, fire, sewer, water, parks.
Okay. So it sounds like I don't know that I got a hard answer on my question. Is if, let's say, in 2 years, do we have any idea of when we're going to re-look at the master plan? Besides,
there is no set time.
Okay.
There's the advice is to do it prior. The advice has been to do it every 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
I feel like we need to do it every 3 to 5 years because of the speed things happen.
Right. So let's say in 3 years, we look at that and be like, ooh, this is seeming a little bit like we're going too quickly. due to load on infrastructure, whatever it is.
It could go either way. Either we're
Right.
growing
Or we're
too
not
quickly or
enough.
we're not. Yeah. Or we've got things in the wrong spot
Right.
because growth sometimes can be organic. We may think, hey, let's put housing out here, but
Nobody wants it.
nobody wants to live out there. Or prior to somebody actually building out there, a company comes in, buys that ground to put in a manufacturing, but it's not a manufacturing zone, but it butts up against it. So they buy the 25 to 100 acres. They come into to the city council and they petition for a rezone of that to industrial.
Okay.
So there's some organic change that happens over the years.
Gotcha. Okay. So you could potentially, it could go both ways, but you could potentially say, all right, maybe we have too much here. And looking at it, we don't want if all of a sudden everybody decided all these high density housing, they sold in the next 3 years, and then all of a sudden we've got all this, maybe that's too fast. We could make that adjustment hypothetically. And unless we have somebody suing and saying, hey, this isn't right, then okay.
Yeah,
all right.
try and get ahead of that. A good
yeah.
example of that change is Forest Street. Forest Street has been zoned as industrial for years. Now we have a bridge that is making Forest Street a very viable and attractive entrance into Brigham City, because now there's not going to be a stop there when the train's there. So now you've got people that aren't going to 1100 South or 900 North to access Brigham. They're coming right to 4th Street when it's done and coming into downtown Brigham.
And now you've got businesses on each side of the road.
Yeah, what that does is everything we thought it would only ever be, because nobody ever thought, even though we dreamed, that there'd be a bridge over the railroad until the state legislature funded that. Now that opens up that as an actual corridor and a gateway to Brigham City. So now the thought is, okay, that's a very viable off-ramp. We need more commercial for restaurants, and that especially if out where on Rita Ranch and out west, the folks that own those properties, they'd like that to be industrial parks. Now you've got all kinds of employees that need some place to eat. They're not gonna want to drive all the way into 1100 South. So let's give them that opportunity there, because that either one, the sales tax stays in Brigham City, but it helps those employers out there because their employees aren't gone for 45 minutes. They're there and back. So it's a lot of that type of thinking that I become obsessed with. This is 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Okay, that's good to know. So I think that's research for me to do, is looking into the master plan, and there's obviously more to it, which is, again, a common theme here is so much I don't know.
No, and I wouldn't expect anybody to. I didn't until I was on city council.
Right. And so we've trusted that to you in the city council, and then it's like, maybe we do want a little bit more into. So that's where I'm at. Maybe it's just I'm inclined to this, but I think there's some truth there. So then I don't know that we ever got to your vision for the city. Is it safe to say the master plan, or is there anything you wanted to say on those lines as far as and maybe leading into the next question of like guiding principles of like how much is too much? Are there things, are there signals you've seen one way or another? It's like, ooh, maybe this is too much. I know maybe this. I don't know if this is a real one or not. Like schools, right? They seem to be struggling right now. Like maybe that's actually an indicator that we need more people and not less. I don't know. But are there any kind of signals to you as mayor or the city council saying, here's where we've crossed the threshold. Maybe we need to readjust, or how much is too much on either of those?
I don't know. So the honest answer is I don't know.
Okay.
Brigham City's been so small for so long.
Yeah. Still pretty small, apparently.
Well, in 1988, that's when I graduated high school.
That's when I was born.
The population of Brigham City was 18,500.
Okay.
We're in 2025. We barely got to 23,000 people. So in 40 years, we've grown 6,000 people, 7,000 people in 40 years. It's easy to think that that's never going to come, never going to happen.
Yeah.
Back in like early 2020, 2021, the growth actually skipped us. And I don't know why, but it did. It went to Tremont. Tremont grew, I think it was 10% for like 2 or 3 years. For some reason, it skipped us. I don't know why. But to think that we're not going to grow, I don't know. You can't stop it unless you own all the ground.
Right.
Frankly, if a city isn't growing in some way, then it's dying. Okay. That's one thing I've learned. Because what happens is with the infrastructure, it has a lifespan. Even schools, roads, water pipes, sewer pipes. And when that lifespan ends and you haven't increased or grown in some way to add to the pot for replacing, then you're left with the citizens that are still here.
Or saved for it.
Well, and there's really no way to save for it because, I mean, you can, but there's the unknowns
Right.
that take that savings. Power is a great example of that, but that's going to be on the backs of the current citizens, that replaceable. That's what you're seeing with the school district. Even if there wasn't any growth, and people say it's because of the growth, and they will have to build schools because of growth, but the schools that they're rebuilding are already here. And a lot of them were rebuilding because they were built 70 years ago, and their lifespan has ended. They're coming to an end. In fact, a lot of them are past their end. We've been making do. They're not seismic. In the day and age we're in, they're not secure. And some of the materials might be unsafe that were built with back in the 70s, the 60s, some even the 50s. And so if there's no growth, even if there's no growth, those things have to be replaced. And the only way the legislature has given for the school districts, they don't sell a product other than education, and there's no money in that.
Right. Yeah.
The only way that they can do that is on taxes. So if there is no growth, whether it's businesses or citizens, they have to bear the burden of replacing. So what you want to do, what I want to do, is you want big businesses to come in here. You want to, because Brigham City's positioned in a magnificent way. We have water, we have our own power grid, we have an airport, all of those things that big businesses want. We have ground. And what happens is because we have those things, we have a way to make money by selling water and selling power. And not just selling power, but we actually, because of our grid, we get to, the state allows each city, even if you don't have a utility, even Rocky Mountain, there's a municipal energy tax that the city gives because you're running energy through that city.
Okay.
And
so you're providing an infrastructure for them.
Yeah. Or even if you don't, not so much, because I mean, the only cities that own their infrastructure as far as power are cities that have their own power grid. Otherwise, it's all Rocky Mountain. But because it's going through the city, there's a municipal energy tax that can be paid, that can be charged. And what that does, like for instance, Niagara, when we brought them into Brigham City, that paid for 4 or 5 new officers on the fees and the what they were buying from Brigham City, the water, the power. Same with
taxes on just what they're consuming.
Exactly. And so that's why you want business. If it was up to me, I would fill the rest of our annexatable ground with businesses. Because they pay more.
Right. But you have to have people to support that, right?
But they could travel in.
Right.
They could travel in from Willard, from Perry. But you bring up a good point. That's why I'm not going to, that's why my vision, or the vision's not even a good term, but my thought process has to include some housing. And that's why you see in the future zone, the master plan, that everything west of the highway isn't industrial or commercial. There's residential elements out there as well, because that's what makes a community. But we are leaning hard into industrial and into manufacturing because, one, it does bring good jobs. If we want our kids to be able to stay here once they graduate from high school with good jobs, that's what we're looking for. And we have a requirement of what the pay should be. It's not minimum wage. If they can come in, but if they want like state incentives to come in, then they need to pay more than the county average. That's just Brigham City's. That way our kids stay home.
Right. Okay.
So,
all right, and then
I probably still didn't answer that, but
the vision. I think I got a vision. I think so. You talked about how you would put business there.
Yeah.
It sounds like there is room for high density. I don't know that you ever got into that, but I don't know that that's a problem necessarily.
No, I think there's logical places for it. On and off ramps next to the highway.
Right.
I think that's, but even that, you go down to other communities off the highway, you see those 4 or 5 story. We have zoned, trying to stay away from that. So we're not blocking views and
maybe you disagree with me on this. I'm happy to hear that. As far as single family housing versus high density, there's trade-offs that come with that. Do you agree with that, or do you not think that there's really much of a trade-off?
No, I think I drill down more.
Okay.
What I want is ownership.
Okay.
So you could have, in my mind, and I don't know how, I'm not a real estate guy
Right.
or in real estate law.
Disclaimer.
But in my mind, even if you're an apartment, there's condos in other big cities where there's ownership.
Where they own it.
Yes.
And they have ante into the community.
Exactly.
Because that's an asset they want
well,
to
it's not so much, I mean, there is that aspect of ante in the community, but it's when you own your property, you have you're a little more, you're a lot more self-reliant, and you're starting to build wealth for your family. And so that's what we're leaning into. It's not so it's because we could go down to 3rd or 8th acre lots, as in my mind, as long as there's home ownership involved. And I
think that's fair.
So so that's why I don't go density.
Maybe density isn't the right measurement. It may be whether you own it and
I want home ownership.
There's a component there that maybe still of high density that I'm not getting at. But I think you're right. I think ownership is. I think it's fair.
And you look at back in the 1980s, you could buy a 3,500 square foot home for like $80,000. Having lived in the 80s and only making $600 every 2 weeks, that's a big matzo ball. But here we are nowadays; it's way bigger. I mean, everyone touts townhomes, but townhomes are as much as single family dwellings on your own lot because of the prices of land and construction costs. And so I could see where we zone the density gets higher, but not so much apartments. But instead of half acre, quarter acre, third acre, half acre, you're down to like 1/8 of an acre, and it's a smaller home.
Okay.
But it's someplace that somebody just coming out of college gets their first job. They're not thrown into $1,200 a month rent. They're thrown into $800 or $900 or $1,000 in home ownership, where they may not be able, because of the size, to be able to build equity by making the home larger, but by staying there until they have the first kid, they're paying down that mortgage and building some equity as well as probably some value as time goes, because everything goes up in value, it seems like.
Yeah, I can see how long it's been since you've had to rent or buy a home. I was like, man, I would kill for a mortgage.
Well, I know that there's some apartments up on Main Street that were new built, and they're like $1,400.
Right. Yeah. There's people who pay.
Yeah. But no, you're right. If you're buying something for $450,000, you're well into the $2,000 a month or even more.
Yeah.
With the interest rate the way it is.
Interest rates. Blessed by divine providence, I was able to get it while I was 3, but I couldn't afford a home.
No, you're right. So so I think by going
so ownership. I like that.
That's what we're leaning into. And
so is that like the Blue Heron neighborhood that's coming up on 1100? I think another one.
Yeah,
that's actually, those are owned. Those are not rentals. It's an apartment setup.
It's not the developer that is building something that he owns and is then going to rent.
Okay.
What you can't legislate is a Caleb Barker investing in townhomes. He owns them now. He didn't build them, and then renting them out. That you can't legislate.
Okay. Right. Yeah. If I have the money to do that, I'm a free man.
Yeah.
It's a free country, more or less. Okay. So, looking at...
And you really can't on the developer either, but that's what we're leaning into. When people come in and they say, hey, there's a development and it's mixed with business and some high density,
What kind of high density? As much as we have a say in that.
Well, whatever the zone is.
Seems like at that point we don't get to make it.
Whatever the zone is.
We don't really get to control. Maybe that's what it is we can't control whether there's ownership there or not.
Right. We encourage it.
it, but we can control high density, and it's hard to build high density housing, or it's hard to build an apartment on an acre where you can only build one house.
Yeah, because it's one thing to put the building there, but then there's parking requirements. There's all of that as well. So and that's why in my mind, and we've done this with the development that's going out west of the tracks that has come to the city council lately, is early on when I heard about it, I actually offered, and they took me up on it, the developer, the city put money into their plan so that we could have some input on ownership and layout and dispersion of single family homes as opposed to townhomes. They've been really good to work with. They've been amazing, and they're trying to do something that is a showpiece for them, And it means that they're in about every 2 weeks with us saying, this is where we're at. What suggestions do you have? And we say, we'd like to see this. And they say, that doesn't really pencil. And so sometimes we say, well, that's fine. We don't want to bankrupt you, and we want you to be able to succeed. And there's been some times where they've said, you know what, you're right. This may hurt a little bit as far as our bottom line, but this builds our community. And there's been a lot of
other communities are going to want
Yeah.
us to bring their business
as
back.
opposed to, hey, we bought this 20, 30 acres, and this is what we're putting on it. And we don't really want your input
Eat it.
other than the zoning. Not so much eat it, but they see the zoning and they know what pencils, and so they've got a plan. But yeah,
Right.
that's what I've encouraged other mayors to do, because that's the thing with the county is smart growth. And smart growth to me is that when you can, you partner in a small sense with the developer. We by no means have the same amount of skin into the development as the developer does, because they're talking tens of millions of dollars for roads and infrastructure. And we said, hey, we'd love to donate, or, we'd like to go in, $100,000 on the plan so that we know what's going on and we have a little bit of a voice.
Right. Yeah. And I think building apartments, maybe that's, I don't know. I'm just figuring out my beliefs here, it turns out. But the apartments building there, I know that some developers, it sounds like this one's not one of these, which is good to hear, is that they don't have buy-in to community. So they're just figuring out what makes the most sense for me so I can sell this and have maximum
Sometimes.
rentals and stuff.
Yeah,
So
sometimes.
that's, again, a concern that I think is at least linked to that high-density housing that we've got to figure out how to navigate.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys are working on that.
And you can only navigate it so much,
Yeah.
because if it's zoned, to Matt's, Councilmember Jensen's, if it's zoned, then if it's zoned and then they become vested by starting plans, we can't say they can't bring in their plans for a building permit and we see what they're going to do that's within that zone and say, yeesh, we need to change that and try and change it. That's where you're going to lose in the lawsuit.
Right. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So let's see here. Looking at, I'd given one of these, if for my listeners, the book, The Law. I've given some out to the other city council candidates so far. But one I think that really outlines the proper role of government and the law, and in a very common sense, Thomas Paine kind of way. This guy's a French guy from like the 1800s. But as far as your, what do you believe, I guess, the proper role of government is, or should be? And are there any like books or authors like I have here that that you would point to that kind of help guide your I don't know, your role as a mayor? Above, I don't know, feel free to include the Constitution or any aspects of that, but anything above and beyond that you've thought more deeply about, maybe?
No, this is, and that's not a bad question. This is what I'll tell you, in a nonpartisan, small town, local government. I don't know everything. So I consider myself more of like a baseball manager. My job is to find the people that do know that stuff, the right people, and then empower them to do their job. So I'm a part-time mayor.
Okay.
So but my sons, who I work with, will tell you I'm up at the city full time. But
part-time mayor.
By the books, it's a part-time mayor, because I don't get paid. I get paid a stipend.
Yeah.
Very little for the amount of time that I'm up at the city. I have my full-time job that pays the bills, and so I don't know anything about public power. Let me qualify that. 12 years ago, I didn't know anything about public power, waste management, water, sewer, storm drain, public financing, police, fire, EMS, anything that the city does. Nobody's going to know that when they come in as the mayor.
Yeah, you learn
and
that.
That's why I think my job as the mayor is to hire the best people for the city, and that comes with a vision. And I hate that word because it needs to be organic. Even though I have ideas of where I'd like the city to go, I do know that there's going to be growth. There's nothing we can do to stop it, because our farmers are ready to retire. Their kids are not going to be farmers. Commissioner Bingham will disagree with me with that, and that's great if his kids are able to do that. But what I'm seeing are the big dairy farmers and other farmers whose kids aren't going in. They're down getting jobs at Hill and P&G and Nucor Steel and blah 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 whatever. And they've gathered up over the last 40 years ground, because as a farmer there's no retirement, you're self-employed. And they looked at those purchases as their retirement plan. So now we have large plats of land that are going to be coming up for sale. And then it's up to the city. It's not up to the city. It's up to the landowner as to what he does. They could say, you know what, I got these 1,000 acres. I want it to be residential. And so he goes out and he finds some developer he sells the ground to that makes houses. He could say, you know what makes more sense is let's just get one guy, but I don't want like 500 homes around because I've been used to on a farm. So I'd like to have a big business there, because then it's just traffic. I got my weekends still, but I don't have a whole bunch of people right there. And so it's really kind of up to them. And if it's not in the corporate limits of Brigham City, then those people that buy that land, they get to determine what that zone is coming into Brigham.
Yeah, tell me about that. You had mentioned that in the city council meeting, as far as people coming in, if we annex a piece of property, how that agreement has worked out before it became part of Brigham City proper. That's entirely outside of our control, or can we say, actually, no, you can still do all of that, but you're not part of Brigham? I don't know if that's is. Do we have any? Does the government have any power at all? And I swear I'm not normally an unlimited government guy, but I'm curious.
No, it's an interesting little dichotomy. So some cities may, I don't know. Brigham City does not go out and annex things. We only move when somebody petitions for that annexation.
Right.
And usually that is going to happen to Brigham City within the future. So back in 2015, the legislature, let's squirrel for a minute, the legislature required every city in Utah, if they weren't already at their corporate limits because they're bumping up into other cities, they required them to negotiate with close communities, their neighboring communities, where their future annexations were going to touch.
Where there's a set geographical area
there is
that will be Brigham at some point.
And it was negotiated between the cities, between Honeyville and Brigham, Corinne and Brigham. Perry was already set. We were already border to border. Perry to us, Perry to Willard. They were already set, except for going out west. But then you get into wetlands, so they didn't have much choice out there what they're annexing or could annex. But yes, and so we look at that, but we're not going out and annexing all of that, because financially it doesn't make any sense for a city to do that, because there's no infrastructure.
Right. We're going to bring that in, and then now we'll have responsibility.
Upon request. Yeah. So what we do is we wait for the landowner to request it, and they request it from the city because they need city services. They need the water, they need the power, they need the sewer, they need roads, and that. So that's usually what happens. Now I say roads, and that's tongue in cheek, because Brigham City requires the developers to develop the roads when they do that, and the infrastructure to get to them. But they come to us because we have water. They come to us because we have power. And so they come to the city, and that's when they petition for annexation. So what happens is you've got the county annexation, and I haven't looked at the map. I don't know whether it's annexed or zoned in the county around Brigham, whether it's ag A20 or A50, which means they can have 20 homes per acre in the agriculture. That's wrong.
That's a lot of homes.
It is. That's the wrong zone, but that's the idea. So it's like A1, or it's just A5. So it's one home per 5 acres, or it's A20.
Oh,
so it's one home per 20 acres.
Okay, got
that. Yeah, I got that a little mixed up.
Dang, that sounds like guidance and housing.
So you get a city, or you get a landowner who markets his 1,000 acres.
Okay.
And the business turns out that they need water and they need power. Well, they could go to, outside of Brigham City's corporate limits, they could go to Rocky Mountain Power. But there isn't anybody else anywhere else close to us that has water. Brigham City's the only one. But Manaway is not going to transport their water from there to the other side of I-15.
Right, without a huge fee.
Well, and they'd have to go through Brigham City's corporate limits, and the state doesn't allow that.
Gotcha, okay.
Without some type of interlocal agreement.
Gotcha.
That's what we have. That's why P&G is out in the county, but all of their water is from Brigham City, and the waste comes back to our waste treatment. Okay. And that's the other thing that those businesses usually need, is waste treatment. And And so that's when we get the annexation, whether it's homes, a development,
Mhm.
or businesses, manufacturing.
And we won't say no to that.
Why would you?
I don't know.
As I explained earlier, you get
Maybe.
a business that's out there, and they're going to use 10 megawatts of power
Mm-hmm.
and buy so much water and send so much sewer back. They get charged for the water, they get
Right.
charged for the sewer,
Yeah,
and
we're
power
getting business from them. We're selling.
But with the power, we're not just getting the kilowatt price of the power they use. They're also paying that. Remember that MET tax that I mentioned?
the fee, yeah.
They're paying that
Yeah.
MET tax, and so you get somebody that has. We're getting asks right now, or looked at by businesses that need 100, 150 megawatts.
Yeah.
That equals millions of
Mhm.
dollars in MET tax, which means we're not doing anything really for that money.
It's just tax.
It's tax.
That's how taxes work.
It's a tax that the
It's a-
business pays. No,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
business pays.
Yeah.
But what that does is it keeps the citizens
Yeah.
from paying for the roads,
Right.
more police,
It
more
subsidizes
fire.
those services for us.
Subsidizing is the wrong word, because it's not taking from somewhere else in order to put it here.
Yeah.
It's actual money from a business. So it's paying for those things. And so that's why I'd like to as many big businesses,
Okay.
especially big power users,
Right.
as I can out in our unincorporated, where we've zoned industrial
So
manufacturing.
those are okay. So all that makes sense. They provide services
Yep.
generally to the public,
the only way-
then we get the tax increase to our.
And
But
that's an incomplete. Hold on,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to over, but I was incomplete in that. That's why they want to annex into Brigham,
Mhm.
because we can't serve them unless they're part of Brigham.
Gotcha.
And so whether it's a development of homes or businesses, that's when the annexation or the request for annexation happens. And to your point, will a city council turn down several $1 million of free money, air quotes, in MET tax? No. They'll change the zone, they'll annex them in. They'd be stupid not to, because that's a burden that's being lifted from the established taxpayers in Brigham.
But it would be potentially a trade-off, right? There's
In which way?
You're saying there's absolutely no cost as far as
When they develop it, they're building the roads.
There's no trade-offs.
They're building the roads.
Mhm.
They're running the water out to them. They're running the power out to them. It's not on the backs of the Brigham City citizens. They're running the sewer back to waste treatment, and then they get up and going in business. So they've already got the roads to them. They got all their infrastructure, and they've paid for that.
Right. But so I guess what I'm saying, let's say it was, instead of a business,
Mhm.
it was an apartment complex,
Mhm.
a huge one. I don't know, something like that. Right. There's same story. It doesn't matter if it pencils. They're joining our community here, because I don't know. Maybe looking at it as far as like bringing in, I don't know, another Niagara or something.
Mhm.
Like, I think there are businesses that wouldn't jive with the community. I think maybe, I don't know. I think we can say that there are businesses that engage in things that maybe our community doesn't approve of.
Give me
Right.
some examples.
Oh, geez, I can't think of any, I don't know, morally dubious.
So that's why
I don't know.
on big businesses.
It's
That's
a
why
pot farm. I don't know.
well, and
Let's call it a pot
to
farm.
that point, that's still regulated.
Right.
We couldn't
right.
say no to
Something-
that, but
okay, but something along those lines.
if
that's
it's not state
regulated.
regulated, yes, we
then it's-
absolutely we can say no, we're not going to
Yeah.
annex it.
Right. But you're saying there's no situation that you could possibly fathom that there's there is a company or something that's outside, and they're saying, "Hey, we want to be part of your community." You're like, there's nothing that would make you change your mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
If they're not paying
Mhm.
what they need, what needs to be, what we want them to pay their employees,
Mhm.
then yeah, we say no. We say no all the time.
So we would say that. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So then you're kind of talking both ways. Then.
No, not really. I guess my example was somebody that was a business that did pay.
So we have criteria.
Yeah, we do have criteria.
If it meets these
Mhm.
criteria, then
Mhm.
we will.
Yeah.
We're not going to say no.
Yeah.
To somebody who meets our criteria.
Right.
And then I guess that gets to the
Yeah, we are.
what's our criteria, right?
The pay for the employees and the impact on the community. Obviously, if it's a slaughterhouse,
Mm-hmm.
we've turned those down. So
Interesting. Tell me about that.
I wasn't.
What do you mean?
I wasn't
Oh, you
in. So
weren't.
yeah, there was a chicken farm. There was a pig plant.
Okay.
They wanted to come into Brigham City. It wasn't a good fit.
You don't want to smell like the dog food factory.
There
in
was
Onion,
some
something
of
like
that, and
right?
and
it could just smell
that's
good,
the
right?
trade-off.
That's the thing, right? That's
Maybe-
the trade-off.
Yeah. Well, maybe you get a council
Maybe-
that's fine with it.
Maybe if you get a bad wind and all of a sudden half the city smells like dog
Mhm.
food, then maybe that is a trade-off. That
And that's a thought process. I don't know. I haven't faced that.
Okay.
Now, if there's going to be a foul odor, but they're paying $10 million in free money to Brigham City,
it might be worth it.
then maybe you have a longer
got a
discussion with
stink
city
tax.
council.
Right, fair enough. Right. So that helps me, because I heard you say that. I was like, there's nothing we'd say no to. We have a set of criteria. And, okay, that's fair enough. Okay.
So I'm looking for what we're looking for, and sometimes we get it, sometimes we get close, is we're looking for, I'd say, a light blue business, white collar pay, but it's blue collar or blue collar-ish work.
Okay. I think that's fair, right? That would be another thing, right? You change the dynamic of the community if it's all white collar.
Yeah.
Better
And the
or worse,
expectations and the
decide,
feeling of
right?
the community. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. Which is, again, one of the biggest assets I think our community has.
Well, and we see that, right? We have that in our community in Box Elder. I think Niagara did that. Walmart did that. Volcraft or Nucor is killing it in that. Northrop Grumman isn't in our community, but it's out in the county.
Right.
Same thing. High pay. Obviously, they have chemists and engineers, and those things will happen with all of that. But you look at the great companies, American companies, whether American or not, but a great American company is Nucor. You've got engineers, you've got welders, it's runs a whole gambit, and you can see on the billboards on the highway, graduate from high school, come work for $90K starting.
That's awesome. That's Nucor.
Yeah.
Dang, I wish I would have known that. Yeah, that's great. That's good to know.
And so that's what we're looking for. That's what city staff is looking for. There's departments of the state where Utah is a very attractive state for business relocation right now. And so we're bombarded. Every city in Utah is bombarded with asks. There's things that come across the economic developers' emails. And they're all, we don't know what they are. They're all code named, but they have their asks. They need this much ground, this much power, this much water. And we can see it on a high level and say, I don't know that I want that. So I'm not going to reply to that. I'm not going to submit an application. Just because you submit an application doesn't mean that you're going to get it, but it means that you're going to get looked at. There's going to be a bit of a competition. And there have been some companies that have come in here and they've gone somewhere else. And sometimes it's because other states are offering better incentives as far as tax back from the property taxes they pay, or whatever, or maybe the city that really wants them, they're able to go out in the city, the taxpayers pay for the land and then give it to the company in order to get them there for the jobs and the income. There's lots of ways that it can be structured.
Them, right?
Incentivize them coming.
It's like it's like trying to get a stadium for a sports team, but it's a business instead, right?
Yeah,
potentially.
That might not be a good example.
Maybe not.
I don't know that I agree with that model, but
right.
But it is successful in some cities. But that's why they go to the big cities, right?
Right, and the incentive is that we are giving them incentives because we.
And you may not make any money on that stadium, but all the support, the restaurants, the clothing stores, and the people from tourism that are coming in from 3 hours away to see the game, and they're going to spend the night in a hotel. Right. They're going to eat at your restaurants, and they're going to buy gas in your city. Then it might be worth the citizens saying, yeah, we'll pay $100 million for the ground, give it to this thing, and because we know over the next lifetime, by the time I die, we'll make sevenfold of what we've invested in that in our community.
Right. That was my point, is that we're seeing the value there, and maybe if they're on the fence, they're like, what about this?
Maybe.
And they're like, cool, that tips the scale in your favor, and we'd love to bring our business.
And then sometimes the legislature comes in and says, you're not going to be able to do this for certain types of businesses anymore, like they did a couple of years ago. You can't do that for commercial. Your Home Depots, your car dealerships. You can't do incentives like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Manufacturing, you still can. Industrial, yeah.
Do you know why that was?
I think if I do not know why. If I had to guess, somebody's city was being left out because a bigger city was stealing all of it, type of a thing, and so then they legislated that so that it would even the playing field or something. Yeah, that was a state mandate. So
interesting. Okay.
Or a state decision, not mandate, decision.
Right. Okay, and then.
Thank you for listening to the Appointing the Wise podcast. Stay tuned for the rest of this interview in part 2. Also, you can find more information on my Facebook page. And if you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. And if you didn't think it was helpful, still leave a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback on how things can be improved. Get informed, get involved, and turn to the Lord in all things. Cheers.